Listen. Rain hammered the empty bus stop when I spotted a nurse clutching a baby. She was sobbing so softly the storm nearly swallowed her. Her nursing scrubs were soaked, badge cracked, the baby's stroller missing a wheel. She flinched at passing headlights, shielding little Audrey, whispering apologies to no one. Being a single dad, I just had to offer my jacket and a ride. I didn't know she had just lost her home and job. And the fiancé who promised forever, all before the sun set. Sometimes hitting rock bottom is just a beautiful new beginning. The heavy rain turned that bus stop into a shallow pool, reflecting the broken streetlight. I was tightly gripping the steering wheel of my battered work truck, my windshield wipers beating a losing battle against the heavy downpour. I had just wrapped up a late repair job across town, and all I wanted was to get home to my daughter Gwen, tuck her in, and collapse. But something in my peripheral vision made me slam the brakes hard. A figure hunched against the glass shelter, just rocking back and forth. Not just a figure, a woman in pale blue scrubs holding something small and alive to her chest. I immediately pulled over, tires spraying water. Through the rain-blurred window, I saw details that completely twisted my gut. Her hospital ID badge hung down from a faded lanyard. The plastic face was split diagonally. A broken stroller leaned beside her, one wheel missing, the frame bent at a weird angle. The baby in her arms was wrapped in a thin blanket that looked more gray than white, and her shoulders shook with the kind of crying that had absolutely no sound left. You know the feeling. I grabbed my jacket and stepped right into the storm. The freezing rain hit me like a solid wall. "Ma'am?" My voice barely carried over the raging weather. "Ma'am, are you doing okay?" Alexandra looked right up, and I saw eyes that held a terrible kind of empty. She pulled little Audrey closer, instinctively protective. "I am fine," she whispered, but her tired voice cracked on the second word. I held up my jacket, hands wide open. "You are totally soaked through. Please take this." I draped it over her shoulders before she could even refuse. The fabric was worn, but very warm. Her cold fingers clutched at it automatically. And for the first time, I noticed her hands were actually shaking. Not from cold, from something far deeper. "The bus stopped running," she murmured, more to herself than to me. I didn't know. I should have checked the bus schedule. I really should have. Her breath hitched. Baby Audrey stirred, making a tiny sound that cut right through the heavy rain. "Where are you trying to get to?" I asked her gently. Her laugh was sharp and bitter. "I don't even know anymore." She stared down at the broken stroller and the small bag slouched beside it. Everything she had left. "I lost my apartment this afternoon, but it wasn't the end. The landlord, George, changed the locks, said I was late on rent. I wasn't. I paid. But he had papers, and I had Audrey, and I couldn't." She stopped, fighting back tears of losing absolutely everything. Carter felt a familiar sharp twist in his own chest. You and I know that look when a person's entire world shatters. He had lived it. "Come on," he said, grabbing the broken stroller. "Let me give you a ride. Somewhere dry, somewhere totally safe." "I don't need pity," Alexandra fired back with zero fight left. "Just absolute exhaustion." "Good," Carter replied, folding up the stroller with total dad efficiency. "Because I don't do pity, I do what is right." He met her eyes. "I'm Carter Hayes. I have an 8-year-old daughter waiting for me. You can trust me, or sit in this storm, but that sweet baby needs warmth. And I'm guessing you need a dry place to plan your comeback." Alexandra studied his face through the heavy, freezing downpour. She saw no judgment, just a tired man in uniform offering the exact lifeline she needed. "Alexandra Pierce," she finally whispered. "This is Audrey." His truck cab smelled warmly of motor oil and hot French fries. Carter cranked the heat high. Slowly, life returned to her freezing fingers. Audrey whimpered. Alexandra rocked her on pure absolute instinct. Pure muscle memory from endless grueling hospital shifts. She had held countless babies, yet here her own daughter was, stripped of everything. "How old?" Carter gently asked, steering back onto the dark, empty street. 6 weeks, Alexandra replied, her voice steadier now, thawed by the roaring heater. "She's perfectly healthy, really." She trailed off, watching the heavy rain wash down the glass. Carter did not push. He knew healing sometimes demanded silence over endless questions. That pivotal drive took 12 minutes. His small house appeared through the raging storm. A little two-story place, its yellow porch lights burning like tiny suns against the dark. Carter parked the truck, and Alexandra suddenly felt a totally unfamiliar sensation. Let's call it the glimmer of a fresh start. The front door flew open before they even reached it. A little girl with dark braids and giant eyes stood there, bathed in warm light. "Dad, you're late." I made mac and cheese, but it got freezing cold and Gwen stopped. Seeing this soaked stranger holding a baby, her father carrying a busted stroller. "Oh, Gwen, this is Alexandra and sweet Audrey," Carter said, setting the stroller down. "They really need a safe place to crash tonight. Can you grab some nice warm towels from the bathroom?" Gwen nodded solemnly, already moving fast. Alexandra stood shivering in the entryway, dripping onto the worn hardwood floor, feeling like an intruder. Small, lived in, and the perfect place to start over. Looking back, I remember photos on the walls, library books on the table. The air smelled faintly of warm macaroni and dish soap. It felt like the home I desperately needed, making my throat tight. Carter vanished briefly, returning with a big sweatshirt and some soft sweatpants for me. Bathrooms down the hall. These were my wife's. She passed 3 years ago, but I kept her comfortable clothes. "You're exactly her size." He spoke plainly, but I heard a deep grief that perfectly matched mine. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "So am I," Carter replied. "But right now that baby needs dry clothes, and so do you. Gwen's heating up dinner. We'll figure out everything once you're warm." Inside the tiny bathroom, I peeled off my soaked scrubs and caught my shattered reflection in the mirror. My hospital badge hung from my neck like a guilty verdict, cracked right across my face. I had worn it with immense pride for 6 years. A pediatric nurse, I saved lives. I had held dying children, making sure they felt completely safe. Now I was fired, suspended indefinitely, pending a formal hospital investigation. You and I know that just meant being completely erased. I changed Audrey first, using the very last clean diaper from my bag. My baby's eyes were heavy, desperate to sleep if the world would just let her. I slipped into Amanda Hayes' clothes. They smelled like lavender detergent, clean and safe. I stepped out to find Gwen setting the table, her little face serious with deep concentration. "I reheated it," Gwen proudly announced. "And I made extra, because babies always make you super hungry." My friend Lily's mom told me that. She stared at me with that raw, unfiltered judgment only children possess. "You can sit in mom's chair if you want to. Dad says it's okay to use things even when people are gone. Otherwise they are lonely." I sat. That simple meal of reheated macaroni, carrots, and apples tasted like an absolute feast. Carter ate quietly, watching us with a protective focus. He was my right person. Audrey dozed comfortably in my arms, finally warm and totally still. "I know you're wondering," I said suddenly, dropping my fork, "about why I'm like this." Carter simply shook his head. "You owe me no story," he said, "but you should know who you took in," I replied. I took a deep breath. This morning I had an apartment, my healthcare career, a fiancé. By sunset, you see, I had lost absolutely everything. I touched Audrey's soft head, grounding myself. I'm a pediatric nurse, over at Metropolitan Hospital. 3 weeks ago, I spotted something wrong in the medication dispensary logs. The children's doses were not matching our orders. Someone was diverting drugs, not narcotics but antibiotics. Immunizations, life-saving medications for sick kids. Little Gwen just stopped eating, listening with wide eyes. Carter's face gave nothing away. "I reported the whole thing," Alexandra went on, "to my boss, the administration, and the operations manager, Constance Hale. Then this morning, I got pulled into her office and accused of making mistakes in my charts. They told me I was suspended, pending a full investigation into my competence." Her tone went totally flat. "They wanted me to sign a paper taking the blame, just to bury the truth." I refused. "And your fiancé?" Carter asked quietly. Alexandra let out a hollow laugh. "Clinton Ward. A pharmaceutical rep. He told me to sign the paper and just walk away from it all. Claimed I was ruining our future together. When I stood my ground, he walked. He packed up his stuff and sent a text saying to never contact him again." She pulled out her cell phone and showed them the screen. "Don't drag me down with you." Carter clenched his jaw but kept his tones steady. "What about the apartment?" "George, my landlord, lied and said I was 2 months behind on rent. I wasn't. I have the bank records." but he pulled out some fake ledger saying I owed him. And he actually brought a cop along with him. Threatened to call Child Protective Services for housing instability if I didn't pack up and leave. Alexandra's voice finally cracked, so I took whatever I could carry. Then the stroller completely snapped on the front steps as I loaded it. So I just started walking. I had absolutely nowhere else to go. Let's pause here. The kitchen was dead silent, just rain hammering the windows. Gwen looked up at her dad, then over at Alexandra. "That is just not fair," she said, her little voice surprisingly fierce. "You were only trying to help kids. Life isn't always fair, sweetheart," Carter told her gently, then his eyes shifted to Alexandra. "But that doesn't mean we stop trying to fix things." He stood up. He gathered the dinner plates. "You and Audrey take our guest room tonight. Tomorrow we map out your next steps. I know a good community lawyer. My neighbor Elias runs security cameras. We are going to document everything possible." "I can't pay you," Alexandra whispered. Carter held her gaze. "I'm not asking for money. I know exactly how it feels when the whole world treats you like trash. Somebody reached out a hand when I was drowning. I'm just paying that forward." Later that night, resting in a bedroom smelling of clean laundry and old books, Alexandra clutched Audrey close and finally broke down crying for the first time. These weren't quiet tears. They were heavy, painful sobs that threatened to break her ribs. But right through the wall, she heard Carter steadily reading to little Gwen. His voice was a calm, steady rumble. "Stick with me here." Alexandra realized that losing everything gave her a chance to meet the right person. The next morning broke freezing but bright. Alexandra woke up to friendly voices and brewing coffee. She dressed Audrey in yesterday's dry clothes, finally stepping out to just start over. I watched Carter make scrambled eggs, while his daughter poured juice with fierce concentration. "There's a shirt and jeans on the dryer that might fit," he said without turning around. "Amanda was about your size. And before you say anything, I am not keeping them as some shrine. She'd want them used. Those borrowed clothes actually fit me perfectly. Have you ever lost everything?" I caught my reflection and barely recognized myself. Just yesterday, I was a professional. An engaged woman with a solid plan. Today, I was a broken refugee, clutching my daughter in a kind stranger's house. Over breakfast, my future hero laid out a simple plan. I called Andrea Rivers. She is a tough lawyer doing pro bono work. "She'll meet with us this afternoon." He slid a paper slip across the table. I also called Matilda Green. She handles HR over at Metropolitan. "She's complicated, but she is fair. She agreed to look into your hospital dismissal completely unofficially." I stared at the paper. "Why are you doing this for me?" "Because it's right," Carter said softly, "and because I've been exactly where you are. When Amanda died, the crushing medical debt nearly destroyed us. She died from a surgical complication, totally preventable according to the final autopsy. But the hospital buried it completely under paperwork. And I was just too broken to fight." He glanced at Gwen, quietly feeding my baby Audrey a bottle with my guidance. "I had nobody to help me, you do." Just then the doorbell suddenly rang. Carter answered it, and a tall man with graying temples stepped right inside. "Elias Brooks," he warmly introduced himself, firmly shaking my hand. "I live next door. Carter told me all about your terrible situation. I checked my home security footage from yesterday." He held up a tablet. "This is your fiancé, right?" On screen, my ex-Clinton climbed into a luxury sedan. The timestamp read 4:30 p.m. Barely an hour after sending his cruel breakup text, and he wasn't alone. A woman in a sharp business suit sat beside him, laughing at his joke. She looked expensive, polished, everything I wasn't at that exact terrible moment. "I know her," I whispered softly. "That is Hillary Ashcroft. She works in hospital administration, right beneath Constance Hale." Elias nodded. "I did some deep digging. Your landlord, George? He got a massive payment 3 days ago from an LLC tied to Hillary's husband. They actually bought your building last month." The awful pieces clicked together in my head with absolute sickening clarity. "They intentionally forced me out," I gasped. "Constance, Clinton, all of them. They're covering up the medication diversion." "That is what we need to prove," Carter declared. He slowly pulled a small plastic bag right from his pocket. "I found this in your jacket pocket when I hung it up to dry. I didn't peek inside, but I figured it might be pretty important to you." I grabbed the bag. "You see it, right? Inside was a forgotten USB drive. My cold hand started shaking again. She showed me the proof. I photographed those dispensary logs. The missing inventory. I plan to alert the board. You and I know how fast things escalate. Then we have our evidence, I told her. Andrea can handle this. But our relief vanished quickly. Around 2 p.m., while I was at work and my daughter was at school, a heavy knock hit the door. Alexandra peered nervously through the glass. She spotted a woman in a suit wearing a badge. "Miss Pierce, I am Vivian Moore, Child Protective Services. I need to speak with you." Alexandra felt completely sick. She opened my door, clutching her baby tightly. "What is this about?" The caseworker looked professional, yet not unkind. "We got a report about a newborn housed in an unstable environment with an unrelated adult male, meaning me. I need to verify this child's safety. Who filed that report?" But she already knew. "That is confidential." "May I come in?" The following hour was an absolute nightmare. Where was she living? For how many days? What was her exact relationship with me? Did she hold a job? Permanent housing? Family support? Vivian logged every single answer, her digital pen tapping the screen like nails in a coffin. "Miss Moore," she pleaded, fighting to keep her tone steady. "I am a pediatric nurse. I know these protocols. My baby is healthy, fed, clean, and safe. I am just staying here temporarily until I sort out housing." "A situation involving homelessness and zero employment," Vivian stated plainly. "Not cruel, just strictly factual. Miss Pierce, I am not here to take your infant, but her welfare comes first. Can you show proof of steady income? Any plan for permanent housing?" "I have some savings," Alexandra offered. "And I am fighting my hospital suspension legally right now." "How much money?" $2,300. Vivian frowned. "Not enough. Nowhere near enough for a deposit, rent, and basic baby care supplies. I will schedule a mandatory follow-up in 72 hours. Until then, I will need direct contact information for Mr. Hayes, just to verify I consented to this living arrangement." I found her pale and trembling. You know that sinking feeling. My daughter was back from school, rocking the baby and humming. She explained the awful visit in breathless sentences. "They just want to scare you," I said. "Make you completely desperate so you surrender." I pulled out my phone. "I am calling Andrea. This is harassment." But later that night, her phone buzzed with an unknown text. "Sign the formal statement, and all of this vanishes forever. Your job, your apartment, your normal life back. Keep fighting us, and you will lose absolutely everything else." She showed me the screen. I clenched my jaw. Escalation. "Maybe I should just sign it," she whispered brokenly. "No." My voice held firm. "You did the right thing here. Kids' lives were at risk. We refused to back down." Still, fear was creeping into my mind. That night, I lay awake listening to my baby breathe. My thoughts drifted to Clinton and Constance. I felt completely powerless against them. Yet meeting Carter made me realize maybe life wasn't over. Little Gwen's innocence, too. I was asking this family to risk everything for me. You know that strange rhythm life takes after hitting bottom. Carter actually repaired my broken stroller in his garage, swapping the bad wheel with a lucky yard sale find. Gwen even showed me how to fold laundry just like her late mom did. Corners tucked perfectly. Elias stopped by with fresh groceries, completely refusing my money. The house echoed with those warm, tiny sounds. Plates clattering in our makeshift family, my baby's coos. Gwen's homework questions. But underneath, a heavy tension simmered. Andrea Rivers analyzed the USB drive and confirmed we finally held proof of stolen hospital medications totaling tens of thousands of dollars. Sitting at Carter's kitchen table, Andrea warned that our real problem was proving who profited. The logs show clear discrepancies. But without solid paper trails linking to actual people, it is all just numbers. "What about my testimony?" I asked. "They'll completely discredit you. You're just a fired nurse with a huge grudge." We needed more. You and I both know help often arrives unexpectedly. Beatrix Lane, an older nurse who mentored me years ago, suddenly called the house. "I heard what happened to you." Beatrix spoke bluntly. "I am retiring next month anyway. I don't care what they try to do. I kept copies." "Copies of what?" "Purchase orders. Constance's signatures, plus payments to Clinton's drug company, marked up 300% over market. She has been running a massive kickback scheme for 18 months. Those stolen drugs went straight to a private clinic charging pure cash. No insurance, zero medical records. My hands went entirely numb. Will you testify? I already drafted my statement. Meet me tomorrow morning. Bring your lawyer. Hope finally flickered. But later that very night, Carter walked outside only to find all 4 of his truck tires violently slashed. Clean cuts, totally deliberate. Elias's security camera caught someone wearing a dark raincoat, but the tricky angle hid their face. The threat was obvious. Back off. Carter just stared at the damage, jaw clenched. I found him standing in the garage, but my frantic apology died when I saw his face. I'm so incredibly sorry, I managed. I'll leave tonight. I'll figure something else out. This is my fight, not yours. Wrong, Carter replied quietly. This became my fight the second you climbed into my truck, and I never run away. Not when kids are at risk, and not when people I care about face threats. He held my gaze. You're not alone in this, Alexandra. Stop trying to be. Losing everything opened her guarded chest. You and I know losing everything cracks even the strongest armor. Why, she whispered softly. Why do you care so much? Carter paused. Finding her was his chance to rebuild. Because Amanda died from someone's total negligence. Someone saw a mistake on a chart, stayed entirely silent, and she died. I couldn't fight back then, but I'll fight today, for Audrey. For every kid whose parents will never know their vital medications were stolen. He gently touched her exhausted shoulder. You stood your ground when it mattered most. That's brave. I'm simply standing with you. But morning brought new heartbreak. Audrey spiked a fever. Alexandra's dormant nursing instincts immediately fired. Check for rashes, monitor breathing, and assess hydration levels. When the fever hit 103, they urgently needed help. Taking Audrey to Metropolitan meant marching straight back into enemy territory. With nearest options 40 minutes out, the terrifying fever just kept climbing. Carter didn't hesitate. We go to Metropolitan together. Let them try stopping us. Stick with me. The ER was absolute chaos. A brutal flu season meant every single patient bay was full. Alexandra held her limp baby, blind panic clawing her throat. She couldn't lose everything again. Finally, a genuine lifeline appeared. Dr. Henry Collins, a friendly pediatrician from her stolen old life. His eyes went wide. Alexandra, what on earth are you? He spotted Audrey and instantly shifted into strict doctor mode. How long has she run this fever? 3 brutal hours. Started at 102, now higher. She's lethargic. Refusing to feed, 0 rash. Soft spot feels normal. Breathing is, I've got it now. Henry gently took the baby. Let me examine her now. You definitely did the right thing bringing her. While Henry worked, the boss who destroyed Alexandra's life suddenly appeared. Constance smiled in cold triumph. She marched straight over with hospital security. Miss Pierce, you are trespassing. You have 0 hospital clearance. My daughter is sick, Alexandra snapped, terror mixing with absolute fury. Then you can wait out in the public waiting room. Constance waved the guards forward. Keep her entirely out of patient areas. Policy. Carter stepped in, defending his new family. She's a parent. Federal law permits her to stay with her sick child. And policy says fired staff cannot access restricted zones, Constance smirked. Security, please immediately escort Miss Pierce to the waiting room. Henry looked up, his face rigid. This child has a viral infection. She requires IV fluids and monitoring. The mother stays. Policy also states we never separate infants from nursing mothers without cause. He glared straight at Constance. Unless you want to explain violating federal family presence guidelines to risk management. Picture this. The tense silence dragged on until Constance spun around and stormed out. Her threat hung over us like thick smoke. Thankfully, Henry got my baby stable. 2 agonizing hours later, the fever finally broke. My little girl rallied. She will be fine, Henry whispered to me. But Alexandra, what is happening? The clinic rumors were awful. Exhausted, I told him the whole truth. Henry just listened, his face darkening. When I finally finished speaking, he sat there in complete silence. I have noticed issues too, he admitted. Medications I ordered never arriving. Children returning for appointments missing the exact vaccines I know we gave. I assumed it was just paperwork errors. He grabbed his cell phone. Give me your attorney's phone number. I will go on record. You will get fired, I warned him. Maybe. But I took a medical oath too. He offered a sad smile. Honestly, I am done playing safe. Listen, back at Carter's place that night, the heavy energy between us shifted. Carter cooked us dinner while I bathed Audrey. When our fingers brushed grabbing the exact same kitchen towel, neither of us pulled away. His daughter Gwen, sharp as ever, loudly announced she was reading upstairs and shut her door. She is definitely not subtle, Carter chuckled, apologizing. She is amazing, I replied. You are raising an incredible kid. I try my best, some days are easier than others. He leaned against the kitchen counter, and for the very first time, he looked exhausted, completely drained. Alexandra, I need to tell you something important. Offering you that ride in the storm, I didn't overthink it, I just acted. And lately, having you and Audrey staying right here in my home. He paused, searching. It has been beautiful, this big house feels completely alive. Gwen smiles more, I actually laugh again. But I never want you to feel stuck here with us. Like you owe me a debt. I do owe you, I whispered. My whole life, no. Carter shook his head firmly. You owe me absolutely nothing. But please know this, when this awful nightmare is finally over, when your nursing career is safe and life is steady, please do not just vanish. If you ever wanted to stay close by, if you wanted to. He trailed off nervously. I stepped much closer. If I wanted to what? I asked. Be part of this, he answered. Part of our family. Before I could even speak, my cell buzzed. My lawyer, Andrea Rivers, the message was brief. Meeting tomorrow, too. Hospital boardroom. Bring all evidence. The next morning felt completely surreal. Andrea had miraculously forced an emergency review hearing with the medical board. Beatrix's hidden documents changed everything, Andrea explained. Dr. Henry's statement proved your claims. And Elias recording Clinton stalking your old apartment pushes this into serious criminal conspiracy. The hospital attorneys know they are exposed. Constance was placed on administrative leave early this very morning. Yet I felt zero relief, only pure dread. Clinton won't go quietly. We'll have security, my lawyer, Andrea assured me. I alerted the police about the harassment. Stepping into that sterile conference room terrified me. You and I have been in these cold rooms. Matilda from HR sat with 2 lawyers. Constance was nowhere to be found. Beatrix Lane sat ramrod straight, her witness statement printed and signed. Henry wore his scrubs, fresh off a long shift. Carter and Elias sat right behind me, my rocks. Matilda began formally. We're here to review the suspension of Alexandra Pierce and medication theft allegations at Metropolitan. She looked right at me. Miss Pierce, you made serious accusations. We've reviewed the evidence submitted by your lawyer. We've conducted an internal audit. She opened a thick folder. The audit confirms systemic irregularities matching your exact report. Around $87,000 in medications vanished over 18 months. One of the hospital lawyers leaned in. We're prepared to offer full reinstatement plus back pay. And a public apology if you cooperate with the criminal investigation and sign a non-disclosure agreement regarding your settlement. No NDA, Andrea fired back. My client's reputation was destroyed publicly. Her reinstatement will be totally public as well. And the criminal investigation proceeds whether she cooperates or not. That isn't a bargaining chip. The lawyers exchanged glances. Agreed. Miss Pierce, on behalf of Metropolitan Hospital, I deeply apologize for ruining your professional reputation and the horrible trauma you experienced. You were totally right. We were wrong. Have you ever felt pure vindication? Tears pricked my eyes, but suddenly the door burst open. Clinton Ward, completely disheveled and wild-eyed, shoved past security. This is insane. You're actually going to believe her? She's lying, Mr. Ward. You're not authorized to be here, Matilda started. I authorized those purchases, Clinton screamed. Constance approved them. It's entirely legitimate, basic pharmaceutical supply chain management. You people don't understand how procurement works. The entire room froze. One lawyer finally spoke up. Mr. Ward, I strongly advise you stop talking and call an attorney. But Clinton was far beyond reason. He pointed right at me. She's been harassing me. She is just jealous I moved on with Hillary. She fabricated everything because I dumped her. Henry slowly stood up. Clinton, I administered vaccines to children that your shady company supplied. 3 of those kids developed severe infections from contaminated products. Your legitimate supply chain almost killed innocent kids. Shut up. Guards finally grabbed Clinton's arms. As they dragged him away, he spat one last threat. "You will regret this, all of you." The heavy door shut. The silence was absolutely deafening. Then Matilda spoke again, her voice perfectly steady. "Miss Pierce, you are reinstated effective immediately. Take a week. Losing everything simply meant starting over right. Your file will be updated to show a wrongful suspension," they declared. "Stick with me here." They promised a public statement that day, praising my integrity and thanking me for having the courage to expose the whole mess. I just nodded, completely speechless. The meeting wrapped up quickly afterward. Andrea shook the lawyer's hand, strictly business. Henry pulled me into a quick hug. "Welcome back, colleague." Carter was waiting right outside the door. "How do you feel?" "Numb," I admitted to him, "like none of this is real." "Oh, it's real," he smiled warmly. "You won the right way." But this wild day wasn't over. Heading back to Carter's pickup truck, my cell phone suddenly rang. Unknown caller. I almost ignored it, but some gut instinct made me answer. "Hello, Miss Pierce. Detective Lorican on the line. We just arrested Clinton Ward and Constance Hale for major corporate fraud. Conspiracy to commit fraud plus severe criminal negligence. We need your formal statement. That police precinct was gray, cold, and deeply bureaucratic." I gave my official statement, signed papers, and answered everything. Stumbling out 3 hours later, totally exhausted. Carter was still sitting in the lobby. "I told you," he said softly, "you are not alone. You and I know second chances exist." That night, his house finally felt like home. Gwen cooked up celebratory pancakes for dinner. My little Audrey gurgled happily, fever entirely gone, pink color back in her cheeks. We ate in comfortable chaos, sticky syrup everywhere, laughter rising. Later, with Gwen tucked in bed, Carter and I shared the quiet back porch. The storm finally broke, leaving the whole world washed totally clean. Sparkling stars were shining for the first time in days. "I've got a paycheck coming," I whispered. "Back pay plus a settlement. Time to find an apartment, stop burdening you." Carter just stayed completely quiet. Then he asked, "What if you didn't?" I turned toward him. "Didn't what?" "Stop burdening me. What if you just stayed right here?" "Not in the guest room, but right here." "Really here, just you and Audrey?" He looked at me, completely vulnerable. "These past 2 weeks, having both of you here, made me realize how entirely I shut down after Amanda passed away. I was surviving, not truly living. Gwen was merely surviving. Then you appeared in the rain, and everything woke back up." "Carter," I whispered softly. "I'm a complete mess. I have a baby. I'm still just figuring out how to be a mom. I'll probably suffer terrible PTSD nightmares about this whole ordeal for months." "I know," he gently held my hand. "I'm a widowed dad with a rusty truck, fixing broken air conditioners to make a living. I snore loud, and I'm entirely hopeless cooking anything that isn't grilled. And I probably have my own trauma to unpack," he smiled warmly. "But maybe 2 broken messes can build something whole." Alexandra laughed, which shattered into a heavy sob, leaving her crying and laughing at the exact same time. "That is the absolute worst romantic speech I've ever heard. I'm entirely out of practice." She kissed him, gentle and unsure, tasting of maple syrup and a totally fresh start. When they finally broke apart, Carter was beaming. "Is that a yes? It's a maybe," Alexandra whispered gently. "Let's start with me officially renting the guest room, with a real lease, and we'll just see where things go. I can definitely work with maybe. Let's look ahead 3 months." Their broken world rearranged itself into something beautiful. Alexandra returned to her nursing job at Metropolitan, where the new operations manager warmly welcomed her right back. Clinton and Constance were finally awaiting their trial. The hospital even launched strict new oversight protocols regarding their medication management. The nursing board interviewed Alexandra directly, praising her as a shining example of professional integrity. She felt quietly terrified but deeply and secretly proud. She officially rented a place 2 blocks from Carter, but 3 nights a week she still stayed over. Then 4, then almost every night, Gwen and little Audrey became completely inseparable. Gwen read board books in silly voices while little Audrey endlessly giggled. Picture 1, bright sunny Saturday morning. Carter repaired the porch steps while Alexandra worked the garden with Gwen's eager help. Audrey napped in her repaired stroller completely shaded by a large tree. The neighborhood buzzed with summer life, kids playing, a humming lawnmower, and the distant music of an ice cream truck. Carter lowered his hammer, quietly absorbing this incredible second chance at life. Alexandra, hands coated in dirt, laughing brightly at something funny Gwen said. You and I could tell this home wasn't a tragic memorial anymore. It finally felt alive. He walked over, kneeling closely beside Alexandra. Hey. She looked up, shielding her eyes. Hey yourself, are you almost done? With the stairs, yes. With this conversation, no. He took a deep, steadying breath. I know we agreed to take things slowly, and we definitely have. 3 full months of moving slow. But Alexandra, I really just don't want slow anymore. I want you here all the time, both you and little Audrey. I want Gwen to gain a sister, you to find your true forever home, and me to finally have everything. Alexandra's breath sharply caught. Carter Hayes. Is that another genuinely terrible romantic speech? Probably. But it is the absolute truth. He pulled a tiny box from his pocket. Inside rested a beautifully simple silver ring holding one modest little diamond. It was my grandmother's. It isn't fancy, but it is incredibly real. Just like us, Gwen gasped from barely 3 feet away. Let's be honest, she was eavesdropping. Dad, are you really asking her to marry you, finally? Alexandra laughed through streaming tears. Finally, it's only been 3 months. It's been long enough, Gwen insisted. Please just say yes. I looked at Carter, at Gwen, and my peacefully sleeping baby Audrey. I remembered that rainy night, thinking I had lost everything, not knowing it was my real beginning. I remembered the kind man stopping his truck, offering me a warm jacket. He fought for me when my own strength was completely gone. He gave me a safe harbor, then gave me the courage to fly. Yes, I whispered, yes, yes, yes. Carter slipped the ring onto my finger. It was a perfect fit. He kissed me while Gwen cheered. Naturally, Audrey woke up crying, probably hungry. We all just laughed as I scooped up my daughter, holding her tight. I didn't save you that night, Carter whispered gently. You saved me. From total loneliness. From simply going through the motions. You showed me what it truly feels like to live again. We saved each other, I told him. I gazed at our new home, at our beautiful family. At the beautiful life we built after losing absolutely everything. And we will keep saving each other, because that is what love means. A sturdy new stroller sat nearby, fully ready for whatever journey came next. My cracked nursing badge stayed tucked in a drawer, honoring past battles we won. Right then, with the sun on our faces and so much hope in our hearts. Everything I lost became the chance to find something infinitely better. A real home. The rain ended weeks ago. You and I know storms bring gifts. 2 shattered people met, started over, and built an unbreakable life together. And that was more than just enough. It was my everything.